All right. So just getting in from our red zone inside practice, I thought the guys had a good practice. One thing I'll start off with is our quarterback situation for this weekend. Andy Dalton is going to be our starter, and Nick Foles is going to be our backup. Justin is continuing to improve every day, but as I've said from the start, we want to make sure that we're always putting him and these players in the best position possible, and so he's working towards that. And if he's going to be up, then we'd want him to be the starter, and so that's why we're making that decision. And the guys have been great about it. And it's we had a good day today out there with Andy going in the red zone, and we'll roll with that. So we'll continue to get Justin going and do everything that he can to get ready for next week. And of course, his health is going to be the number one concern as we do that. So other than that, I think you guys have everything else. We did activate Akeem Hicks, which is good off the COVID, and we'll work through that whole ramp up process as we do all players coming off of that, just trying to make sure they get their win back and football conditioning. So I'll go ahead and open it up to any questions.
For first question, Jason Leisure.
Matt, I believe you guys have Justin listed as questionable. So is there still something you're trying to figure out? And then my follow-up to that would be just what was he able to do? How did he look when you had him on the field this week?
Yeah, he's doing good. He's getting better every day. And that's as we work through this, just trying to let him get his reps and see where he's at going through football type movements. And then just listen to him and tell us what the pain feels like medically, where he's at. We put all that stuff together, and then we need to, I think the other part of this too is making the decision for all of those guys, for all three of them, for our coaches, just so they have a clear picture for this weekend and then for, next weekend as well. So, he's definitely getting better, and that's what we want to do. But at the same point in time, we want to make sure that when he's out there, he's as close to a quote unquote 100% that you can be.
He's out Sunday then, or
he's what? No, he's not out. He's not out.
Next question, Dan Weeder.
Matt, at this stage, what's the biggest thing that's limiting Justin right now?
Probably, for us is, I think the pain of the football movements, just as he's continuing to, get back through. It's one thing to be able to get back there and drop and take a handoff, a stretch handoff, and hand the ball off and set up for pass and different things like that. But we want to be able to have him do everything, and he wants that too. So whether it's, scrambling outside of the pocket, extending plays with his legs, whatever it is, the package that he brings, we want him to be, as close to 100% as we can get. And he's just not there right now. So that's the decision, where we're all at. We all feel good about it. And, we're going from there.
Given where this season is, given the importance of Justin's development, how do you kind of characterize the missed opportunity here of just another game that will pass without him being able to gain experience?
Well, you could look at that two different ways. We go into this season with the plan of, Andy being the starter and Justin developing and really watching how this happens, but always being ready. And that didn't happen. And we understand that that's football, and Andy getting injured forced Justin to go in there and play. And he did a good job of showing us that he is ready and that he's going to learn. And so we look at all of these plays that he's had this year because he is able to handle it both mentally and physically as a positive. This is a part of football when you get hurt. And so, he's done a really good job of trying to do everything he can to gut through any of the injuries or hurts that you have to be able to get more playing time. And that's the goal right now with him and I do think that he's close, but we just got to make sure, Dan, that as we go through this process, there's a process with these quarterbacks too, mentally, of making sure that, okay, if you're going to head into this thing, it's one thing to say, well, he's getting close, but now all of a sudden it's Friday or Saturday and you have no practice reps because he wasn't able to have full practice. And so it's only fair to these other quarterbacks to be able to mentally get prepared and get their reps too. So, trust me, Justin completely understands that. And all of our coaches do, our players do. And it was, being at this point right now, we're fortunate. We look at it like we're very fortunate to have these quarterbacks on the roster that when we're in this position, they can help us win a game. And so that's, he's going to do everything he can to get back next week.
Next question, Pat Finley.
Matt, A-Rob was telling us the other day just what a toll COVID took on him. And you kind of made mention of this with Akeem too. How do you guys sort through, just because a guy is off the reserve list, where is he medically? And what can you expect from them on a Sunday? I imagine it's not as simple as, well, he's been cleared, now he's just back to normal.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into, you're right, because I think every player is different, Pat, in regards to how they handle it, how much they got hit by it. Some guys got it worse than others. Some guys are out more days than others. For instance, last week with Larry Borum, we were at that position last weekend with him getting in early in the week, or, Wednesday or whatever it was, Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, not knowing exactly where he was football shape wise after being out. It's similar, but everyone's a little bit different. So we have to evaluate. I think A-Rob has done a good job this week of being able to get into football shape. It doesn't mean they're not tired. There's other guys too that have come off that list that talk about how winded they get. That's all real, so it's just a matter of each guy saying, okay, here's where I'm at. And then maybe you limit some snaps too for the guys and you work through that. But that's what's different right now for coaches, is trying to juggle through, okay, this guy's been out how many days, this guy's been out, and now they jump back in. There's some dominoes that go with that.
And you mentioned Larry. What is your plan for both tackle positions on Sunday?
Yeah, well, first of all, the good thing is I think all four of them have had a good week of practice. We're going to continue to, on the left side with Tevin and JP, I think they're both doing good, and they're working through their own story as to where they're at with injuries. But I felt like it was a good week for them. And then on the right side with it's the same thing with Larry and Ifedi. We're going to work through by game day where we're at. We have an idea, but we'll get into that on game day.
We saw you guys platoon a couple of young corners with some veterans the other day. Is there any world in which your tackles all play, or are you going to go with the starter and stick with it?
I think we would go with the starter and stick with it, just to keep the consistency. The good thing of the depth you saw last week with Tevin, getting hurt early in that game, to be able to have some depth to be able to put in Larry and Wilkinson and being there as a backup as well. It helps. So all those guys, if that happens, it happens. And we do trust all of those guys. That's the good part in this, is that we trust them all. But at the same point in time, you look at these guys, they all kind of have their own story, with Jason Peters and Ifedi both being, the starters headed into this season, and Jason Peters coming in like he did and having a great year until he got hurt. And then you have Ifedi, who, was our starter all last year and then became the tackle, came into this year, unfortunately got hurt. They all have different stories. So we got to juggle all of that. And then the same thing too, is, as you all know, we have two young rookie aspiring tackles that are getting experience, but there's a process of how you go about it. There's a day-to-day functionality of communicating to them as we see where they're at. And trust me, in the end of this thing, both of those young rookie tackles, they're going to have a lot of time to grow, any way you look at it. It's the same thing with Justin. So, we got to work through all that and understand, what puts us in the best position possible at all positions, really, not just the line.
Next question, Joe Lewis.
Yeah, Matt, you were talking about juggling the many things that come with a player and their injuries. Knowing that ankle injuries can linger and the pain tolerance can go up and down, how do you juggle wanting Justin to get those reps in these last two games versus wanting to make sure that you don't get a long-term injury or have this pain linger longer than it should?
Yeah, well, we're going to do it. We're going to make sure there's no, we don't get a long-term injury, because we're going to medically make sure he's good to go. That's why we listen to Andre and our doctors. And then we're going to listen to the player too, because he's the one that has the pain tolerance and they know their bodies more than anybody, and everybody's different. I've told you, Justin's a very, very tough individual. So we got to sometimes protect Justin from Justin. We know what Justin's strengths are and how he plays. He sacrifices his body a lot. We got to be smart. We're never going to do anything to jeopardize his health. It's just not going to happen. So once we get by that part, now the next question is, okay, medically, is he cleared? And then pain wise, where are you to be able to play football and be effective? Because if you're playing quarterback, you can't be mentally thinking about your injury. You got to be able to be mentally strong playing the quarterback position. So we're going to make sure that that's where he's at. That's what we're working towards this week and next week. And, that's the only thing we can do is have time tell us where he's at with his pain, and then see where he's at medically. And then we head into next week making another decision as to where he's at, so that's kind of as clear cut as I can possibly be.
Last question, Dan Reeder.
Matt, generally speaking, when you're in a game planning week, how do you create contingency plans for the possibility that there's going to be massive wind gusts that may impact what you originally wanted to do?
I think instantly of that Buffalo Bills Patriots game, that was crazy seeing that of, 3rd and 14 with a power run up the middle. But no, we understand that that's real. We haven't had one of those recently, but we know it's real. You have to be able to know, okay, these are the type of plays we're going to get to via the run or the pass. And then the players got to go play because they're playing in the same conditions as we are. So we'll put something together just to make sure that we understand that on certain plays, we may want to be aggressive, but we're going to have to see how aggressive we want to be based off of the conditions, So that's part of the planning that we do. And it's nice to have a 10-day weather report.
Do you have a method on Sunday morning of getting out to the field and just feeling it, licking your fingers, sticking up the sky, whatever it might be?
Yeah, you do. There's sometimes where, again, the weathermen and women, they say it's going to be really, really like crazy. So then you change your game plan and then you go out there and it's not really, really crazy, and, but some of these are, they're right and they get it right. And so you got to go out there and play with the conditions, and the players know, the coaches know, and we rock and roll with whatever it is.